Hey Taurus, welcome to your December 2024 tarot reading, intuitive tarot and astrology reading, and Sagittarius season, of course. All information to work with me one-on-one is below my website, and different payment options are all below, as well as the Patreon link. That will be the first link, which will directly bring you to the Taurus extended second version of this, where we get more in depth. You can see the cards, take a look at everything with me, and it'll also bring you the general reading if you prefer just to get the general, this video, right to your inbox. So if you're curious of any of that, please check below, and let's get started. It's your reading. It's been rainy where I am for a couple of days. Very grounding energy, but I know a Taurian likes to roam and free yourself, and sometimes in these cozy matters, depending on where you're at, it could feel like you can bring up things that are stuck, or you can bring up some shit that doesn't really need to be brought up, but maybe you do. Maybe you learn to shift the dynamic and realize that it's time to release yourself from that view. Give yourself a way out. Give yourself a plan. Give yourself the ability to create from what you've learned. This is an 8 and this is an 8. So wherever you have felt, wherever the days where, because you've been on such a go mode, if you get to the season and you get to have moments of relaxation, or you find that anything that you're doing is actually bringing you, you're almost wanting to bring and manifest anxiety or a restlessness to it, it's to remember to stay grounded within your own self, and to realize that that could be an older version of you that's being brought up to be acknowledged and understood for where you're going now, for what you're working towards now. And any time that you find yourself working towards something that keeps you focused, there can be, especially something that you feel like where you're more stationary than not, but like you're traveling throughout your brain, right? You're maybe creating or doing something, but you don't feel like you're moving. I would recommend taking different moments during the day to get up and move, one, because it will help you move your energy and not feel like you're not doing anything. You'll realize that you have, and if you write down a list, if you feel like it, you may realize that you check everything off by the end of the day, and you realize like, oh, I did get a lot done in a matter of, 4 hours or 2 hours, right? So your focus can transcend and cause time to like go in this weird way. And it's up to you whether you want to focus on something that's going to bring you down or bring you back to a place where you feel like you can't move and you're in this enclosure like a cow or a bull would be. But like we said, it's time to roam, or where this freedom gives you so much space, like having this huge canvas and not knowing how to fill it. You're learning to break through any of the ways in which you feel that way in your life, whether you're someone who doesn't play big enough, or a normalization response to change, right? It's like almost like a trauma response, but depending on how you've handled change throughout your life, you may go back to responding in those old ways in times where, especially, it's a change that you haven't made in ever, or a very long time, or you've always thought a certain way. And now, in order to move forward, in order to move on, you need to allow yourself the compassion that you would give others, the generous of energy that you would give others. To walk away from any relationship or anything in your life that's emotionally taxing, and you keep giving to, and you just don't, and you've spoken up about, you're a person that is continuously learning how to speak and advocate for themselves over time. So now you may be at a place where you feel like you've done and said all you can say, and now it's time to move out on your own and in a way that is independent. So for some of you, this is about monetarily doing something on the side, or finally leaving a place and going into maybe another place, or a place where you can find more independence with yourself, where you can maneuver at your own pace, where it also is allowing you to integrate some emotion, and where you've been holding your value as well. So this can be a career move month, or a way to make more money month. But while you're doing that and setting off on different endeavors, you may have already done it. You may have already been there. Maybe you've been progressing. It doesn't mean certain things won't come up. So what I see here is that towards the end we have this Temperance, and we also have Leo. So Mars just moved into Leo retrograde. For Taurus risings, that's 4th house shit. Then we have, if for Taurus risings, 8th house is where Sagittarius would be for the most part, depending, on what your chart looks like. So that energy is allowing you to expand and transcend and see what you can actually commit to in ways of changing the way you make money or receive money, or your partner's money may change as well, depending on what kind of relationship you're in. And then while also bringing up where you've stopped yourself, or where you felt comfortable making a certain amount or in a certain position, or being under the guise of a company and now you're becoming more independent. So if something happens, it's on you. You're becoming more responsible for yourself and your way of being, for your way of handling money, in terms of your self-worth. Well, does that not relate to where you place that, where you have allowed others to give you that say, and now where you're taking back that power and giving yourself the say? Therefore, for some of you, if you are still wanting to be a part of a company, you have a talk and that doesn't work out, you move on and find something that will value you in this way. No matter how many years, no matter how much energy you put in, maybe you've already wanted to do this, and then when it comes time, it almost feels weird and scary, but you know what this is like. When you soften and you come into your heart, instead of so a lot of times we're constantly reassuring the brain. We're reassuring the brain because the brain needs reassurance. It needs constant, repetitive, and remembering and reminding and tapping into that energy that you understand that this change isn't going to hurt you. It's not going to harm you. It could cause you to take a leap of faith, which is disrupting a certain pattern. It's disrupting a trust muscle. You're taking your trust muscle into the gym and you're working out and you're doing more weights than you normally do. You are in yoga and you're stretching yourself into a pose that you finally feel like you can stretch into. You're meeting yourself and you're realizing that you're stronger, and in order to build upon that, you need to keep going. You need to trust through this time. You need to see through and understand that you do this for others all the time. This is something that, whether they ask of you or not, it's something that comes in with your character. So it comes through your questions. It comes through the way that you conversate. It's not necessarily giving you and point blank being that obvious and being that cutthroat like a Sagittarius would be, like super blunt. You're finding a way, aesthetically pleasing, in a beautiful way to do that. But as you maneuver into this life, as you confidently go about your ways, knowing that what you learned and what you have to offer is, and how much life is in support of this change and in support of this journey, even if it is the way you're thinking about things, and even if it's the way that you've been healing, the way that you've once done something. Sounds like the TV is a little too high. All right, that you are you're constantly needing to give yourself this opportunity to be honest with where you're at and where you want to go, and give yourself, it's being able to embrace the mutability, to know that maybe a few weeks ago, once Sagittarius season started, not so much December, you had thought one way, that you wanted something. And usually, as a Taurus is, you're very consistent, so that wouldn't change. But now, we're almost done with the retrograde. We're in the midst of that change. Mercury retrograde has brought us, but then we have the Mars retrograde in Leo, which has brought you a different way of approaching your foundations. It's given you a different perspective, perhaps, on your caregivers, the way you care for yourself, and you're wanting to speak up. And no matter what the scenario may be, wherever you're building upon those foundations, wherever you need to care for yourself extra, a lot of times those things come up for us to learn to deal with and take care of. So you may want to change something. You may surprise yourself where there's something else that you want to do. There's something else you may want to add. There's something else you want to say or implement into this area of your life. And the only way to do that and truly have the freedom in that, Sagittarius asks, is to do it, is to confront it. So if you're planning something, or you're creating even something at home, I don't know why home office is coming to me, or you're painting, or whatever that is, like, give yourself the time to fully develop your vision, and realize that you can develop it now, but it can be a constant development that you come back to later and you realize, like, oh, I want to add this. And so you do. Or if you want to take something away, and so you do. You give yourself the freedom to maneuver, to realize that the reason why some people or work can be so attached to you is because you're attached to that validation, because you know how good you are. So that keeps you in that reminder, in that constant reminder of, like, oh, I'm needed. They need me. In this relationship, I'm needed. This person needs me because I do this for them. I provide this for them. I'm so secure in that part of me. Well, if you're so secure in that part of me, then you don't need them to need you in that way. It helps shape your identity, and it's a part of who you are, but you're transcending that time now. You're transcending that space now. And you realize that you need you to know yourself, to allow yourself change, to allow others space to change and grow. Because here's the thing, as you grow in your career, you change your career and you maneuver in a way that's very much more freeing, much more a place where you feel much more successful, much more seen, and being honest with yourself that you want that. The more you give it to yourself, the less resistance you may find with the people that once had issue or trouble with you growing. Whether you've kept them around or not, that's on you and that's your decision. But if they're still around, hopefully they'll realize that this is just a part of your nature, is to constantly be in change. People don't always think of Taurus that way, but you're the spring, right? You don't bloom and stay, like, you need a place where you can go internal and you can explore. It's not just about being, like, introverted. It's exploring what your likes and dislikes are in a way that you feel safe, in a way that it feels loving to you, that maybe you didn't always get that opportunity growing up or throughout your life. And now you're realizing that if you are, living freely, not under anyone else's roof, you're giving yourself the space to see more of the things that you haven't allowed yourself to shift or change because it just kept you feeling comfortable and safe in places that you maybe once weren't, maybe where your brain wasn't safe. And now you feel like, oh, I can express more of myself. I can change this because my brain can learn with me. My brain is growing with me, obviously. And it's developing that deeper sense of trust with your brain, with the way that you communicate your needs, your wants, your desires, while also being open and receptive in a way when something's brought to you, willing to say no, willing to say yes, and maybe this. Willing to say no, but I'm open to another option or compromise. We'll get more into the second part because, yeah. Jeez. Why? Nope. Still not right. That's why it's for the second part. Because you're speaking to the part of you that fights with yourself, and whenever you find yourself maybe in your head too much or being frustrated too much with the world around you, it's because there's somewhere in your life that you're giving up your control or you're giving over your worth, and you need to be okay with who you are and allow other people to be more uncomfortable. And it's funny because you successfully have done this throughout the years, but right now, in this time, it's just that there's so much going on that's what you almost can rely on yourself being this person, right? This might be more hindsight for you, which is realizing why you probably were more one of the last signs that I did. Not because I'm a Taurus rising. No, it's true. But realizing what you get fixated on and how that isn't even helpful anymore. So you're getting to a place where you need to free yourself from that restriction, from holding yourself back in these places that you do, that any friction or parts of you that you're coming up against, I'm just reminding you that it's a place where you need to accept that you're not the same, that it's okay. It's okay that when you integrate and that when you feel your emotions and feel through those places within you that give you more freedom to roam, that it may evolve even what your first idea was, right? It may evolve more of what you really want and how you see the things progressing, how you see things continuing. And all of a sudden you're like, I thought I was good at asking for what I want, and now I feel, but it's because if you're feeling like you can't ask for what you want, there's something inside of you that feels like you can't have it. But you can. It's telling you that you can. You can. You already do. It's just getting yourself there internally, giving yourself access to the part of you that knows no bounds, but also knows how boundaries are helpful, but now your boundaries need to go elsewhere in order to make what you see happen, or to create it, right? In order to create it, not just seeing it, making it happen. In other words, creating that space for yourself, deciding differently. We can get comfortable in relationships too, and it's really important that if there's something that you're needing support for, you feel like you may not need to speak up about it, but it's really, there comes a point when the reason why this is coming into your life is because you do need to speak up about it. Using your voice is really important. Learning to express yourself in all the ways that are healthy and constructive for you is important. How do you find that out? Because you do the things that aren't. Or you think about it and you realize, probably not going to do that. Going to learn to express myself. But how many times you need to be pushed in order to express yourself in the ways that you've been probably thinking about for a while? Trusting that intuition, if you don't, a lot of times we get blocked. And then we're asked to use our voices in other ways in order to strengthen ourselves for the actual conversation that we're needing to have. And it's because it's probably attached to one of your fears, maybe one of your deepest fears, that And usually that's because that's what you're afraid to lose most, or lose control over, right? Add your own adjective there. That's what you're afraid of. But when you allow yourself to go there, it's giving yourself and allowing yourself that change within your heart, knowing who you are. And at first you may think, well, if I say this, it won't mean anything. But then finally, you just feel that change happening within your heart. Like, again, when you get that quiet, it's that same thing where you feel like it's not butterflies, but it can feel like dispersing of energy, and that's your nervous system changing from that deep-rooted place within your heart. So there is a necessary change when you feel that in that space. And you feel like everything is going to end because it's just not the way you've lived before. But the truth is, it's just that way of doing things is going to end, but it's going to open up a whole new experience for you. Like what you already have, and it may transform what you already have, but it's like that's what you're ready for. And it will feel even better because then you may feel like you don't need an excess of energy in other areas. You don't need excess of, name it, any indulgence, any overindulgence. You may find this all of a sudden like whoosh, happen. Because usually with these changes, it comes an emotional shift and change, and can feel like you're going backwards, but you're going forward. You have to go back in order to go forward a lot of times. All right? Taurus. The second part, get more in depth, is below for one pull only. And here's all your cards because you wanted to talk. Know your value, know yourself, shit's changing. That's why you're coming up against it over and over, but don't let that confidence slip. That confidence is what's propelling you, that resilience, that knowing, that trusting. Each one of those is bringing you closer to the changes within and without, because it's both for you at this time. All right, everything is below. Information to work with me, and we'll see you there.